The Truth Girls.
Hi everyone. Sorry about the horrible lighting. It's, winter, as you all know. It's kind of dark up here in Canada. Since it's the holidays, I've been pretty busy and it's kind of hard to find time to put up updates about the news, but I'm going to do one today in spite of the bad lighting. Obama quietly signs the Countering Disinformation and Propaganda Act into law. It's the National Defense Authorization Act for 2017, which supposedly has things tucked into it to restrict freedom of speech, freedom of the press, to attack the alternative media, to establish a ministry of truth and give the government sweeping powers to decide what is truth and what is not, and what is allowed and what is not. They mention also HR 5181, which is the one that they say introduced the de facto Ministry of Truth, called the Countering Foreign Propaganda and Disinformation Act of 2016. And there was the Countering Information Warfare Act of 2016, introduced in March by Senator Rob Portman. The legislation represented a dramatic return to Cold War-era government propaganda battles. Wow, what's the government doing in America to destroy freedom of speech and the freedom of the press? Although this is a right that you should have solidly established by your constitution, so how can they do that? So I went to look at these bills. The NDAA bill, S2943. Boy, is it long, I'll tell ya, and I looked through it. I've been reading this bill and trying to find anything in it that says, we, the government, now have sweeping powers to control all media and to designate things as foreign propaganda, and as yet, I have not found it. It's got a lot of talk in it about every little detail they might want to have to mention concerning their military operations and everything associated with it, but nothing that I can see saying that they're going to have any powers over the freedom of the press. Sorry, maybe I didn't dig hard enough, but I didn't find anything. It's the NDAA bill that, every year they have an NDAA bill. They have to decide what they're going to do with their money and their operations, so they have a bill. As far as I can tell, this one isn't really that different from any of the other ones. Okay, now there's HR 5181, Countering Foreign Propaganda and Disinformation Act of 2016. I've seen it phrased in some places that it will offer whole of government strategies to counter foreign propaganda and disinformation, with the phrase added, without bureaucratic restrictions, which worries some people. Because they say, well, what, you can just do whatever you want? There's no oversight, there's no other committees, you don't have to pass through anything, you just do it? Quote, to establish a center for information analysis and response and develop and disseminate fact-based narratives to counter effrontery propaganda. Worries some a little bit when the government's talking about producing fact-based narratives. So let's look at 5181. The bill expresses a sense of Congress that A, foreign governments use disinformation and other propaganda to undermine national security objectives of the U.S. and key allies and partners, that the U.S. should develop a comprehensive strategy to counter this. And an important element of the strategy should be to promote an independent press in countries that are vulnerable to foreign disinformation. The goal here is to establish a Center for Information Analysis and Response to Government Information Warfare. Lead and coordinate the collection and analysis of information on foreign government information warfare efforts. Establish a framework for the integration of critical data analysis of foreign propaganda and disinformation efforts. Develop and synchronize government initiatives to expose and counter foreign information operations directed against U.S. national security interests. ... You notice the word foreign is there in all three of them. They didn't say anything about curtail the American press. And then you have 3274. And it's more of the same. Analyze foreign government information warfare tactics and techniques. Support efforts to counter foreign disinformation and propaganda efforts to influence the policies and social and political stability of the U.S. and its allies. They're talking all the time about foreign attacks. Now, of course, they could claim that someone who's just in the American alternative media is actually a foreign operative. But I think unless they could sort of prove that, it would be harder, like almost impossible for them to apply any of these bills to any American alternative media outlet to shut them down. What does Infowars have to say about this? Breaking: Obama bans free speech in the dead of night. Banned free speech, and in the dead of night too. That sounds really scary. And yet your website is still up, isn't it? Now, maybe they could use some of this to take down, say, Russia Today, a foreign news outlet. They could say, oh, this is Russian propaganda and we won't allow it. There might be some websites like that would fall under this. But I don't think anything like Infowars or Natural News or Zero Hedge or your own YouTube channel, I don't think they could use this to shut any of those down. The problem could be, though, that let's say some of your alternative media gets some of their information from sites like Russia Today. That could curtail their access to information. If foreign websites start being restricted, it is going to restrict the kind of information Americans and Canadians and everybody else have access to. And in that way, it could restrict what American websites can report on. As far as I can tell, what seems to be happening is that there are several bills. The NDAA 2017 bill is passed, but people are conflating this with other bills which are actually just related bills. These three, which haven't actually been passed yet. And so for some reason they're saying that these bills are in the NDAA, which I looked, but I really don't see them in the NDAA bill. And I don't see anything in here supporting that the government will have new sweeping powers over the alternative media. Other than that, they could designate some branches of the alternative media as foreign propaganda under these bills when they're passed. But if you're American and you have an American website, unless they can prove that you've been paid off by the Russians, none of this will apply to you. So that's where I'm at with this. Let me know what you think. Thanks for giving me a thumbs up. I hope you're having a happy holiday season. Thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.